In today's episode of ways my body is trying to self-destruct, I have a stomach infection. Welcome to my life. For real now. In today's episode of Casting Gone as bad as it possibly could, and even worse than that, I'm going to take you back 10 years ago to my very first casting. This specific audition was for a short film that was about senseless violence. I found it off of some sketchy website that was called auditionforum.something. I was 13 when I was searching the internet for some kind of something that would possibly get me in a movie or a series or whatever. So I found this casting, right? And it was very close to where I lived. It would take me about 15 minutes to get there by train. And I remember on the website, the ad specifically said that they were looking for people of all ages and that anyone below 10 could bring their own text and anyone older than 10 would get a text assigned. They sent me the text. It was very dramatic. That's all I really remember. Besides the plays that we did in middle school and in elementary school, I had zero experience. I'd never taken an acting class. Nothing. I started obsessing over this whole thing. I started reading it over and over and over again and I memorized it. Fast forward a few days. It's like the day before the audition. And my mom calls me in her room and she says, "Your casting is tomorrow. Why don't you..." It was a poem. "Why don't you say the poem for me?" And I go, no, I'm not gonna do it. I'm too shy to do it. Which is a very bad indication. If you're too shy to say it in front of your parents, you're doomed. If you can't do it in front of the people that you know and that you're comfortable with, forget about being able to do it in front of complete strangers who are there to judge you. After a while, she managed to force me to do it and it was horrible. There's a difference between saying lines and being able to bring over a poem with all the emotions and all the feelings and everything that the writer captured in it. That's way harder than saying lines and getting it across realistically, in my opinion, especially if you're just starting out and you have no experience. It's way easier to imagine a realistic situation where you've ever said things that are in the lines than saying a poem where things rhyme and trying not to make it rhymish, if you know what I mean. Where was I? I went to the casting the very next day. We get off the train and we're on our way to the place where the casting is. And I have the paper with the text in my hand and I'm like holding it and still reading it. And this guy with a huge beard passes us and he goes, "I saw your text. I assume you're going to the casting too. Mind if we walk together?" We get to the destination and they make us wait in a gigantic room with one incredibly long table. And I remember there was this 7 or 8-year-old girl who had her own website and who was allowed to do her own text, and it was one that she wrote. It was something about rabbits and bunnies. She was 7. Time passes by and they call me in. I go in. There's another long table in that room. 4 people were sitting around that table. There was a camera, there was a guy working the camera, and then there was some space where I was supposed to go stand. I go and I stand there and I am quiet. I was extremely nervous. I guess they realized nothing was gonna come out of me, so they just said, "Okay, well, whenever you're ready." I wasn't ready. You know how you're supposed to look people in the eye when you're talking? Yeah, I didn't do that either. I stared at the ground the entire time, didn't look up even once, forgot my line somewhere halfway, started over, forgot it again there. They just said, "Okay, thank you," with those fake smiles, and they sent me walking. I go back in that room where 5 million people are waiting. The guy with the beard, he looks at me and he says, "And how did it go?" Not that well. And then to make matters worse, one of the jury people, he comes out and he goes to the little girl.
"Oh, you did so well. We'll definitely check out your website."
And I just couldn't wait to get out of there. Have you ever tried to say a dramatic ass poem about people beating the shit out of each other and screaming, "Oh God, please help me," when you're 13 and still into Barbie dolls and Hannah Montana? Luckily, that was 10 years ago. I mean, can you imagine going to a casting and looking at the floor the whole time? I cracked myself up, you guys. Oh, I hurt my nose. But I learned some lessons that day. One of them being, go take some classes. Which is exactly what I did. The next 5 years after that were filled with a lot of everything that involved acting. And obviously, a lot more castings. Which I will tell you about in my next video. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I hope you lived vicariously through me and that you won't ever make the same mistake that I did. And I hope I'll see you again in my next casting experience video. Bye! By the way, please subscribe. In the sake of my 13-year-old self. Bye.